Right, members, you're hereby summoned to attend the monthly meeting of the Environment and Regeneration Committee held in Council Chamber in Guildhall on Wednesday, the 10th of July, 4 p.m. And I will hand over to Karen now for the attendance and apologies.
Thank you, Chair. Alderman Derek Hussey. Yeah. Alderman Keith Kerrigan is in attendance. Alderman Julie Middleton here. Attendance, thank you. Councillor John Boyd.
Apologies for John.
Apologies, okay. Councillor Caitlin Deeney. Councillor Sean Fleming. Here.
And Shaw.
Okay. Councillor Brian Hart.
Apologies.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Emma McGinley.
Sure.
Here. Councillor Roy McHugh.
No.
Here. Councillor Patrick Murphy. Councillor Declan Norris. Councillor Martin Riley. And Councillor Brian Tierney. Thank you, Chair. Apologies, yes, I must be.
Thank you, members. And broadcasting statement. I'd like to remind everyone present that this meeting will be broadcast live to the internet and will be capable of repeated viewing. This broadcast may be terminated or suspended in accordance with our protocol. If you're seated in the lower public seating or media areas, it is possible that the recording cameras will capture your image, and this will result in the possibility of your image will become part of the broadcast. By entering the council chamber and using the press or lower public seating areas, you are consenting to being filmed and consenting to the use and storage of these images for broadcasting or training purposes, and for the purpose of keeping historical records and making those available to the public. If you wish to avoid this, you should move to the upper public gallery. A copy of the council privacy notice can be found on the council website, www.derrystaban.com. Members, next item is item 4, declaration of members' interest. If anyone has a declaration now, or it can be raised when we go to the item. Grand. Moving on to item 5, chairperson's business. I have no chairperson's business at this stage. Move on to item 6 then, matters arising from the open minutes of the ENR committee held on Wednesday the 12th of June. Have we anything to raise? No matters arising, members. We will move on then to item 7, which is the Northwest Greenway Network. And that's Karen.
Thank you, Chair. Members, the purpose of this report is to provide an update on the delivery progress and financial status of the schemes which are being delivered under the Interreg funded Northwest Greenways project, and to seek members' approval to utilise the budget balance for Greenway and other green infrastructure developments over the next 5 years. So members, you will be aware of the project and its aim to deliver 46.5 kilometres of Greenway under the following routes: Maydown to Quigley's Point via the Foyle Bridge and Culmore, including the Pennyburn Bridge, and Ballinagorry, Castlefin via Lifford and Strabane. Members, all Greenway schemes which form part of the programme have now achieved practical completion, and members, approximately £34 million has been secured from a range of funders to deliver the programme, and they're listed in section 3 of your report. Members, as outlined, both the councils brought in a range of funding sources, and sufficient funding was in place to successfully complete the projects and achieve the 46.5 kilometres of output target by the end of the grace period, which was the end of June 2024. So members, in relation to the financial implications, in relation to councils, Derry City and Strabane District Council's contribution, we had set aside £1.7 million towards the delivery of the programme, and despite there being a period of significant construction inflation, we still have a balance of in the region of 279,000, subject to us being able to receive all our outstanding grant applications that we have submitted to SEUPB. And members, you will be aware of our Greenways delivery plan. and that we've been working closely with DFI active travel teams in order to ensure alignment and strategic fit with their wider Greenways delivery ambitions, and to ensure that we can secure DFI active travel grants of up to 50% towards our projects that we are taking forward. And you will be aware also that we retain a sum of 625,000 in reserves in relation to play parks and greenway development that was set aside as match funding towards the LUF application for play parks and greenways. 100,000 of this fund has been reallocated, and we therefore have a balance of 625,000, which leaves a total unallocated balance of 904,000, subject to receipt of outstanding grant. And we would propose to ring fence these remaining funds to support the continued design, development and delivery of play, green infrastructure and greenway projects under our 5-year greenway plan. And members, any specific recommendations in relation to particular infrastructure will be brought back to members as approvals are required. But the recommendation today is that members approve the allocation of the Greenways funding balance and remaining play parks and greenways development funding to support the development of play, green infrastructure and greenways across the council area in relation to our 5-year greenways plan. Thank you, Chair. I'm happy to take any questions that members have.
Councillor Duffy and then Councillor Murphy. Alex.
Thank you, Chair and Karen, for the report. Now, mine is not directly relating to the report as such, but it is to greenways, and I have 2 items to raise that hopefully we can, if not today, then get an answer back. The first one is the very concerning situation at the Strathfoyle Greenway over the last week or so, where we have the illegal use of motorbikes on the Greenway. I've been inundated by complaints from residents as well as users of the Greenway, near misses with dog walkers to near misses of the people riding the bikes nearly falling off, not wearing any helmets and stuff like that. It's going to end up in a fatality. It's a nightly business that goes on for up to 6 hours, just constantly up and down the Greenway. Local groups, residents, including ourselves, have been engaging amongst ourselves and also with police to try and bring an end to this before there is a tragedy. It's to ask council if council could go and explore what we could do to also help tackle this. I'm not going to try and make any suggestions of what should be done, as you all know best of what's done in our greenways to try and tackle this. But we're just in the beginning of summer, and it's going to be a long summer if this continues, and God forbid a tragedy. The second thing, if you don't mind, is the extension of the Strathfoyle Greenway from where the Greenway currently ends to the top of Temple Road, which then joins on with the DFI cycle walk path. Do we have a start date on that, an estimate completion date, and a suggestion from the local community groups and residents is that council or the contractor, I suppose at this stage, actually consider putting physical security on the site, because there is great concern that it could end up being a hub for antisocial behaviour, and as it's going to be marked out as greenway, so it's going to be a lot of muck, then it's also going to turn into an illegal dirt track for these bikes as well. So if we can consider physical security on site or something similar, that would be great. As I say, happy if you have any answers for me now, that's fine. If not, then at a later date, it's fine too. Thank you.
Yeah, through you, Chair, members, we're happy to look into those issues and come back to members on them.
Councillor Murphy.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Karen. I've just a wee query around the Culmore Greenway and the section from Culmore Country Park to the border And I was just wondering, are there any updates available as to where that's sitting at the moment?
Okay, thank you. Through you, Chair. Yeah, Council have appointed a consultant, and at the moment they are looking at the various different options in terms of on-road and off-road options. That commission should be finished by the end of October. But what we'll do is we'll do a range of engagements, okay, with members and landowners over the summer months, okay, to see what's the most feasible option. So that work is in process. To date, we haven't actually seen the draft proposals as yet on those options, but as soon as we do, we'll bring them to members' attention.
Thank you, Colin. I'm happy to propose a recommendation.
You, Councillor Murphy. We have Alderman Middleton and Councillor Norris as well.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to associate myself with Councillor Duffy's comments. I also have been inundated with constituents who are extremely concerned that there's going to be a fatality and that the actual greenway is getting damaged. It's just getting really dangerous. So thank you, Councillor Duffy, for raising that, and definitely want to associate myself with those comments.
Thank you, Chair, for bringing me in. Same as, thanks, Councillor Duffy, for raising it. But as Alex knows, we're all working on it, you know, but it is going to lead. But I personally think it's now a police matter. The problem with scramblers and trial bikes, no matter if you put up bollards or whatever you put up, they can get through it, and you have to allow prams to get in and wheelchairs to get in, so they'll get in no matter what. So to me, it's a police matter, and they have to act now and take the bikes off the people, you know, in my opinion, and put an end to it, you know, because somebody else is going to get killed, you know. And I agree too with what Councillor Duffy is saying about the Greenway and Stradone, you know, will have to be sort of secured in some manner, you know, because there will be antisocial behaviour. Hopefully not, but there may be. Thank you.
Councillor Norris. Councillor Duffy.
Thank you, Chair. So I just what Norris was saying, just as I previously said, all groups are working with the police to get this sorted. The wall doesn't seem to be there from the police to go and seize these bikes. The police know who they are, they know where they are, and the police are not doing it. So a recommendation for some sort of, I'm not going to make a suggestion of barriers or something like that, but that then slows them down so police then can do their jobs. As at the minute, there's nothing there and they're flying straight past police, and that's what the problem is. Thank you.
Have we a seconder, members? Alderman Middleton's first hand. So proposed by Councillor Murphy, seconded by Alderman Middleton, and we're content, members, with item 7. Move on now to...
Yeah.
Sorry. Councillor Tierney.
Thank you, Chair. It's just, I find the previous conversation quite interesting, particularly around the quad bikes and the scramblers. I'm wondering, and while I appreciate that this is going on in Strathfoyle, I know that the Greenway can be frightening for people who are using the Greenway. I would be of the opinion that this is a problem that we have across the city and district. And if there is suggestions where some type of measures can be put in around Strathfoyle Greenway, I think we need to be looking at this in a wider picture, because there's estates and areas across the city and district that this unfortunately happens day and night. And, you know, I have been on record before condemning people who use Galia as a racetrack, the estate as a racetrack. So if we are going to be looking at something which I fully support, and in relation to the Strathfoyle issues that they're experiencing now, I would argue that there will be people probably listening to this meeting or seeing reports coming from this meeting in different areas across the district who are facing with the same issue, and will be wondering why we're not taking that approach right across the district. So I think that's something that we need to consider as well. Chair, thank you.
Councillor Tierney. Moving on to item 8, which is the Newton Stewart Regeneration Framework, and that's going to be Tony.
Thank you, Chair. Members, this report is to update you on the final draft version of the Newton Stewart Town Centre Regeneration Framework. You recall items presented in 22 and 23 in relation to preparation of the framework for the town centre, and the item references are all quoted there in paragraph 2.1. And these papers follow on from the notice of motion that was adopted by Council back in 2021 in relation to us proceeding with such an exercise. The E&R department officers were assigned to coordinate and prepare the framework document in-house. And the objective of the framework has been to set out the regeneration vision and priorities for the town centre over the next 5 to 10 years. The preparation of the document has involved the establishment of a technical steering group made up of officers from all 3 council departments and relative statutory stakeholders, for example, DFI Roads and Historic Environment Division. In addition to the establishment of the technical steering group, officers have also been engaging with local stakeholders in Newton Stewart by means of the publicly advertised engagement workshops, which were held at the beginning of the process back in February 23, as well as the ongoing and regular engagement now with the Traders Group, the Newton Stewart Heritage Group, and also the 2000 Centre together. And this engagement has helped us to shape the contents of that framework document. The framework has many similarities to a master plan. However, members will note that it is a more focused and condensed document, setting out the opportunities, challenges, the regeneration objectives, and indeed the series of proposed actions at the back of the document. Officers are already progressing a number of actions contained within the current version of the framework document and engagement with local stakeholders as part of the design and delivery stages of these particular actions. Following endorsement of the draft framework back at E&R Committee in December, a public consultation exercise was then initiated during February and March of this year, which included an online survey to allow the public to provide their feedback to the draft document. The online survey was widely publicised using the Council's social media platforms, and the survey period remained open for a period of 4 weeks. The consultation station was also set up at the Newton Stewart 2000 Centre, where hard copies of the framework were there and available, and for people to actually leave their comments in a suggestion box located at that facility as well. We also facilitated a public drop-in session at the 2000 Centre back on the 7th of March, which council officers were available to answer any questions from members of the public around the plan. And we also held a local workshop for DEA councillors on the 7th of March, also to discuss the ongoing issues affecting the town centre and indeed how the framework can address this. The feedback received during the consultation period has been reflected in the finalised document, which is attached to the report, members, as an appendix, which you'll have seen. And subject to your approval of the attached final draft version and ratification at July full council, officers are proposing that the framework is launched then next month and made available on the council's website. In terms of implications, the completed final draft framework focuses on a key rural town within the district and sets out the regeneration strategic vision and series of indicative actions going forward. And it will contribute to the economic, social and environmental well-being of the town over the next 5 to 10 years, and which are designed to improve the area. Climate change considerations are also considered within the document as well. From a financial perspective and other implications, the framework has been prepared in-house, as I've noted earlier, and led by the Environment and Regeneration Department. There's been no external technical consultancy input to this exercise, and whilst the council resources have been committed to this exercise have largely been through the allocation of existing staff time, there has been a small cost incurred in, and will be incurred rather, in the graphic design element and any printing costs that we do post endorsement and adoption of the plan. As with plans of this nature, members, there are currently no confirmed budgets set aside to deliver many of the actions contained therein. However, the framework will be used to influence investment decisions by relevant stakeholders and play an important role in helping us to secure external and other funding opportunities as well. It's also important to acknowledge that the challenge in economic climate and the uncertainty around future funding sources from both central government and indeed local government, and therefore delivery of any actions contained in the framework will be influenced by the level of funding available, and which may impact on the implementation periods and delivery timescales. So members, in terms of the recommendation, we're asking you to note the contents of the report and to endorse the final draft version of the framework. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tony. Councillor Devine.
Thank you, Chair, for letting me speak. I'm not a member of committee, so I appreciate that. I want to welcome this final draft of the regeneration framework for Newton Stewart. I want to congratulate Tony and Maura and everyone who's been involved in putting the document together and all of the background work that they have done, particularly the consultation work with the businesses, with the community groups, the residents, and with ourselves as elected reps to ensure that they've captured and reflected the concerns, the needs and the aspirations of everyone in the town. In the past year, since I've been elected as a councillor, I have heard a lot of views from residents and businesses there in Newton Stewart. They're grateful for the work that has been done recently in the town, and particularly the painting scheme, which I think has given the town a real lift. But, and unfortunately there's a but, they are frustrated and they're disheartened with what they perceive as a lack of interest in their town and the historical underinvestment in the infrastructure there. And all of those things have been reflected in the report that you have put together in terms of poor parking facilities, inadequate pedestrian access, lack of signage, and even simple things like no street furniture or flowers in the town. That's one of the things that's been highlighted in the action plan, relating to street furniture, hanging baskets and planters. And I think was referenced here in our last council meeting about the award that Derry won and the sort of the floral displays, and the comment around that was that they bring colour and vibrancy to the council area and make it a beautiful and attractive place to live and work for locals. And I think that's what we also want. I totally agree with that, and that's what we want for our rural towns and villages as well. And I think council need to lead by example and start delivering on these short-term elements of the plan that are within their control, and they need to do that without delay. Newton is a town rich in both natural and built heritage and has huge on-tap potential tourism, but the infrastructure needs to be done in advance to help to realise that. If tourist coaches were attracted to come into Newton Stewart now, they would have nowhere to park, and that's a major issue. This document is a fantastic starting point, but we now need to see a strong focus on delivering the framework for the people in Newton. I appreciate there's no funding allocated, but I think we need to start. Our next focus now needs to be on delivering practical outcomes. We need to reassure residents that they have not been forgotten about and that this isn't just a paper exercise with a plan that's going to sit on a shelf, and we need to know that the council are committed to delivering for rural communities. I'd like to know how we proceed from here today to make sure that plan is delivered. I know the document talks about a monitoring and evaluation template, and I think that's really important. We need that, but I think we need much more than that to drive actions forward and to reassure residents and businesses that we're going to do that. I would like to maybe suggest that steering group continues, that it's maybe a more collaborative approach between the statutory organisations and the businesses and the elected reps. Obviously, I'm not a member of committee, so I can't propose that, but I think it's a fantastic way to work collaboratively to try to overcome any of the issues that are present and to keep communication channels open. So, look, I want to thank the officers for the great work they've done. They've produced a fantastic report, and we need to just keep that momentum going now.
Yeah, through you, members, thank you for those comments. And certainly from an officer perspective, we are committed to being able to deliver the framework as quickly as possible. Clearly, as members have been advised in the report, there are funding constraints, and we will be looking to elected members in terms of the rates estimates process, in terms of how we might be able to take forward some of these suggestions. And also then we have already begun conversations with a number of partners in terms of other potential actions that fall outside the control of council, but certainly within council we would like to be able to deliver as much as we possibly can, and certainly on the engagement with stakeholders we would be fully committed to continue the engagement on a regular basis to make sure that we keep people up to date and indeed that we can get their views in terms of how we progress. So more than happy to do that, members.
Councillor Devine, yep. Alderman Hussey.
Thank you, Chair, and thanks for the report. Firstly, can I propose the proposal that Councillor Devine has suggested? I think we need that continuing collaborative support with all engaged agencies, etc. Councillor Devine has outlined all of the issues there, and congratulate her in that she will realise that that's following on from former Councillor Kieran Maguire and the work that he was doing, and a proposal that was in the previous remit of council from Kieran and myself. The whole issue is results. And that's what people want to see. They don't have to be big results. They want to see the start. And that start can be done in small ways. And it's not just council. It's not a dig at council. It's all the agencies that are involved, whether it's communities, whether it's DFI or whoever. There are elements that they all can get in there, which is why the issue of that continuing collaborative grouping is so vital to bring forward everything that has been suggested. Within the document, I note the red line, which is outlined as the development limit. That might be the development limit of the town as such, Newton Stewart as such. By the way, it's TOW, and quite often I see council writes it as Newton Stewart, and that in itself can be quite frustrating for the residents of that area if people cannot even spell the name of the settlement correctly. But with regard to connectivity, one that's been sitting about for a long time is the utilisation of space that is available along the A5 to create a walkway, a greenway. That would lie outside that red line and lies within the responsibility of another department. And we've just heard the greenway proposals previously. So, you know, I would like to think that the regeneration document is not limited by that red line, because Newton Stewart is more than just the town centre. There's a lot of issues around the area that can be brought in on the overall regeneration. But happy to propose the suggestion as is there. And I think it is important that continued liaison with the various agencies and indeed those impacted directly in Newton Stewart itself continues. Thank you, Chair.
Alderman Hosea, I'm taking it that you are proposing the report and you're proposing Councillor Devine's suggestion as well, and that was seconded by Councillor McGinley. Thank you. Councillor McHugh. Thank you. Chair, just my own, or myself, so Karen, Chair, on my own comments there, again, welcome the report. I do thank Tony for the work that has taken place. Just a wee quick question. It's always one you always wonder. I know we had the online survey, we had with that option, we had then what was raised, I think I raised it at the time, about the paper survey and having the hard copy there, and you had the pop-up day as well in the 2000 Centre. And again, I found the workshop that you had for the Dairy DA councillors very useful. But I'm just wondering, was there what sort of numbers was the response in regards to that? Because you always have that fear that there's very few actually respond to that, and then you have plenty of people complaining later, because I think some of the rest of us will be well aware there were plenty of opportunities to respond in regards to the work taking place in Castlereagh presently, and yet now you have the volume of issues being raised by people then now at this stage, after it's already the horse is well bolted. He's finished the race at this stage nearly. So it's just an uptake on that one, and again, glad to see the work on, and Alderman Hussey's raised as well the greenway. I think there are possibly quick ones, but it's not within our remit. That's probably under the DFI, but it is good to see it, because say Newton Stewart, it is the fourth settlement within our city and district, and it's good to see that advancement there. And it's a place that always sort of looked more towards Omagh than ever towards maybe Staban, or ever towards to the city in particular. And it's a difficult place as well, where you're effectively very close to 4 separate DEAs coming into it there, with from an Omagh ones and 2 of our own. So it's a bit that's often kind of set on the side a wee bit. I think that's a feeling in the town, to be truthful, that you get from people. But sorry, just to clarify on that, Tony, thank you.
Okay, well, thank you, Chair. And just maybe just pick up on the 2 points, and just laterally in terms of your point in terms of numbers. In terms of online, we had in and around 30 submissions online on the day. We had the drop-in session. I think we had around 9 people come in and speak to us during that period. And I think there was very little hard copies that were posted through the suggestion box. But that said, you know, obviously there was a support for the plan and endorsed. People content to see what we had done. We had also representation from the traders group as well, independently of that. But largely just as a welcoming proposal and supportive of what we were trying to do. In relation to Alderman Hussey's point around the red line boundary, obviously with it being a town centre regeneration framework, we've had to create some kind of boundary by means of definition. But that said, it doesn't mean, and particularly connectivity is a really key important issue in terms of how do we move people to and from the centre, in and around the centre. And fundamentally from our perspective, that point has come up quite regularly from our stakeholders in and around the Greenway connection. And we'll be working with Colin's team, indeed DFI and others, in terms of maybe how we will move that particular action forward. But again, it'll be subject to getting the full buy-in of DFI and resourcing. But that said, I think it's very important in terms of that list of key projects that we'll be progressing as part of our continued work with all of the groups currently in Newton Stewart.
Are content with item 8 in Newton Stewart. That's grand. We'll move on to item 9, Stavan Urban Park, and that's Karen.
Through you, Chair. Members, I will take this, and if you're happy enough, Chair, then Colin will do a very short presentation of the visuals for members as well, if that's okay. So members, this is to present an update on the engagement process for a new urban park at Melvin and Strabane. Members, you will note that in November 21 we agreed to undertake a feasibility study into the provision of a skate park in the Sperrin and Derrick area, and members had then endorsed Beachmont Avenue as a preferred site, and then members, we presented site analysis and concept designs to the steering group in January 2024, and members had actually raised some concerns in relation to loss of play, traffic generation, etc. So the suitability of that particular site, and we agreed then that 2 alternative sites were identified at Melvin, which hadn't been previously considered. And we then carried out site analysis on each site, with the preferred site, the land directly beside the Melvin Sports Complex. And members, we presented options to the steering group elected members and the Strabane Local Growth Partnership in relation to this on the 13th of June. And there was unanimous endorsement for site selection. And it's proposed, therefore, to progress with the concept designs of the urban park provision with local residents, and we intend to, subject to members' views and endorsement, to update this, to undertake this on the 7th of August, and our officers will be in attendance. So members, a copy of the plans are included, and the concept designs include an upgraded play provision on the site of the existing play area at Ballycoleman. And you will recall that this is one of the Strabane play projects that was nominated to progress to design development. Members, in terms of finances, it's proposed that £20,000 be set aside to progress with the design development, aligned to what's been approved previously for the development of an urban skate park in Derry, and that is available through the £904,000 that we have already recommended to be approved today. So although funding hasn't yet been secured, it is essential to undertake the pre-engagement as a prerequisite for any future funding applications. And we're asked to progress and approve the allocation of the design development funding. And I'll pass over to Colin now, who will take you through some of the site visuals for your information.
Thank you, Karen. So members, these are just some visuals that have been produced in-house by Helen, our green infrastructure designer. So the first slide obviously shows you in terms of the potential of what this could look like. Next slide. And this is some of the background to the various different sites that we looked at, the various different assessment of those sites in terms of the criteria that we used, and then the various different timelines that Karen has articulated in terms of focusing in on Beachmont Avenue, And then the resident engagement that we undertook, there wasn't a huge amount of feedback, to be quite honest with you, but then subsequent to that, there were concerns that were raised, and we had met with members, and some of the issues that were raised, and particularly with the Adria site that's developed next door in terms of increased traffic, loss of play provision and the impact in the area. So what we did was, rather than, we kind of parked that design development at that stage, what we thought about was we might need to consider other few options. Next slide, please. So the next slide is, this is just kind of, these are just precedent images that show you what an urban skate park can look like. Essentially, they are concrete structures, okay, but what we would like to do is integrate this into the landscape, so it has a much softer feeling in terms of greening it through soil mounding and tree planting, etc. And obviously then on the left-hand side, there's the design vision, and these are really the parameters in terms of what we want to do. And this is taken for best practice guidance in terms of how you make this a much inclusive, fun and safe place. Next slide. So the next slide really is not to go back over the Beachmount site in terms of, we looked at it and we came up with a number of design proposals and designed options. And then the number of the concerns, as I previously said, were in terms of just basically the impact this must have. And maybe the site was too small for it, and what we were trying to bring in might create more problems within the residential area in terms of traffic and traffic movements. Next slide. So what we did, members, was we looked at a number of different sites, particularly down in Melvin. So there's site 1, there's the north of that slide, and there's site 2. Next slide. And then the next slide, what it shows is the major, the proposed routes. So what we have is a very strategic route. It's the bridge that crosses the river and its linkage into the town centre, and then the linkages into Ballycolman. So that linkage is in place. And then obviously we are working on the Strabane sign connectivity, the feasibility work around that, and then ultimately how this will link into the city deal proposition for Strabane. Next slide. So the next slide, if we focus in on this, it is really looking at some of the existing features that are there. So we have the Melbourne Centre. Next slide. Then what we have beside that is the Melbourne GA pitches, or sorry, football pitches. Next slide. And then what we have is the potential site there that is basically within the curtilage of the Melbourne pitches and the end of the bridge. Next slide. Next slide shows the existing Ballycolman play provision, which is in need of regeneration, as Karen has stated earlier. This is a project that has been previously approved to upgrade. Next slide. Okay, and then what we have is the athletics track. Next slide. And then moving on down, we have the BT station. Next slide. And then moving on, what we have is the adjoining allotments. Next slide. And then what we have is the old school that was there to the front of that site, which is now partially closed. Next slide. And then finally, at the end of that, we've council-owned land, and we thought about that as the second possible site for the skate park. Next slide. Okay, and then finally, what we have is the GA pitches at the south end of the site. Next slide. So out of the two sites that have been identified there, both are council-owned. The preferred site was the site that was site number 1, and this is the site that basically is to, it adjoins the pitches at Melvin. Next slide. So a schematic overlay of this illustrates two things. It's to the left-hand side is a regenerated play area to the appropriate standard that we use. And then you can see where the proposed site for the skate park facility is. So that's about 1,800 metres. So it's a very, very good standard. So what this would involve is, basically the existing fence line that's there is pushing that fence line back, okay, regrading the lands and then developing a new facility there. Next slide. And then I suppose with this slide really, there's one more, not to worry. Maybe we go back in the previous one. Okay, thanks, Paul. Okay, so really, members, so that is the master plan that we're proposing. Obviously, what we want to do is we want to go out to wider consultation with residents in the area. And what we're really proposing at this site is the design development of the play area, which we've got specific detail, and the proposed site in terms of the location of the urban skate park facility. If that meets favour of residents and members, we will bring back a more detailed design concept of what actually goes into that space. So at this stage, we're just really looking at site selection, and the £20,000 has been set aside. That is to help us in terms of get some probably external design expertise in terms of skateboard design to get a really, really good design, and working with the skateboard fraternity as to what that should look like. So look, that's just a kind of an overview where we are with it. And the next stage is to take this out to wider engagement in August and then bring back a subsequent report to members in September. Thank you.
Councillor McHugh.
Good Chair, thank you, Chair, and thanks for the report as well. I'm not a councillor for that particular area, but my colleagues Barney Hart and Paul Boggs are, and I know that they had met as part of those meetings. I'm just passing on what they had said to me about it, and I know that they're particularly pleased at the new location and that it fits in well with the current Melbourne site, and that the concerns and issues of nearby residents of Beachmount Park have been addressed as well as part of that whole process, you know. So just to record that, Chair. Thank you.
Are you content to propose, Councillor McHugh?
Yeah, happy enough.
Have we seconder? Seconded. Councillor McGinley was first hand, right? So that is, we're content enough then with item 9, the ban urban, or sorry, Alderman Hussey.
Yep. Chair, I welcome the development that is present in front of us. Again, referring to a previous councillor, I think it was Councillor Edwards who first championed this particular provision. But it's good to see the continuation of the vision. And I'm looking at the idea of the vision. And I note in there, suitable for beginners and less experienced users, including a learner's area. One of the things that I find with the skateboard community is that they want challenge. So although you're looking there at suitable for beginners, etc., will there still be challenge within whatever is developed? Because if there isn't, it will die a death. Thank you, Chair.
Through you, Chair. The ongoing design development to date, we're working very, very close with the Strabane Skateboard Committee. And in terms of how this may look and what it may feel like, absolutely. The key thing is, I mean, they're the experts in the area and they're guiding us on in terms of what they should, how they should look, how it should feel, where there are good examples that we should go and look at. And so absolutely. And then when we get into the design, the real design detail for that element of the works, that's where we need to bring in that external expertise to make sure that it is, that it's outstanding and that it's, you know, it really, really meets the needs. And people just don't make a visit, but there's repeat visits to it, like, you know. So yeah, that's the challenge for us. It's a new area for us in terms of design development. But look, we're working with the right people, and we'll get that external expertise just to bring that to life.
Through you, Chair. Thank you, Colin, for that. You know, and I mean, we are talking about a sport which is now an Olympic sport. So, you know, hopefully then we can have folk who are developing their skills to take them to that level, whoever they represent.
Happy enough then, members, with item 9, the ban urban park. We'll move on to item 10, proposed environmental improvement scheme in Foyle Street, and that is Tony.
Thank you, Chair. Members, this report is really to update you in relation to proposals for an environmental improvement scheme at Foyle Street in Derry, and to seek authority to commit a budget sum to undertake some initial technical concept designs. Members, you'll note the sewage improvement works that are scheduled to take place in Foyle Street commencing next month, and these works are scheduled to last for a period of up to 12 months. Officers are currently scoping the feasibility of bringing forward a potential environmental improvement scheme along the street, which would focus on the upgrade and enhancement of the physical appearance of the section of Foyle Street from its junction with Water Street to the junction of Whittaker Street along both sides of the street. If feasible, then the project would focused largely on the footways in terms of replacement surfaces, new street furniture in terms of seating, bus shelters, bins, as well as scoping opportunities for soft landscaping across the street as well. Mindful of the closure of Fowle Street for almost a year, as well as NI Water's planned works taking place along the roadway only, it's considered that the street would benefit from a focused scheme that is intended to improve and enhance its visual character and appearance. The project is currently at a very early concept stage and subject to a number of key variables in terms of being able to secure the external funding for the capital element, as well as the ability to programme and deliver any proposed scheme to coincide with the reinstatement works which will be taking place to the NI Water Sewerage Replacement Scheme. Being able to programme any proposed works to coincide with NI Water's improvement works will be important in terms of minimising any potential disruption. Officers have carried out some initial engagement with key stakeholders considered important in the design and delivery of any proposed scheme, namely DFI Roads and Department for Communities, to assess its technical and financial feasibility. This dialogue is ongoing in terms of the key considerations relating to securing external funding, as well as the proposed procurement and delivery options, should in fact the scheme be feasible. Officers have also engaged previously with City Centre Initiative and TransLink in relation to the proposed concept to improve the appearance of Fowle Street through the design and delivery of this scheme. We've also, as officers, have engaged with NI Water to discuss the concept in further detail as well. Obviously, members, in terms of commissioning the external design input, it will be important in terms of further scoping the technical feasibility of the proposed scheme. There is an opportunity for Council as the project promoter to avail of DFI's external highway engineering and design consultants to prepare some initial high-level concept drawings, and it is anticipated that a budget of up to £30,000 will be required to complete the necessary technical scoping. And just for clarification, that would be to take it to detailed design stage and not just the high-level initial scoping. It's proposed that the funding required is set aside from the £904,000 fund that's been previously mentioned and identified to support the design, development and delivery of play, green infrastructure and greenway projects. Members, it's only through the commissioning of the designs for this proposed environmental improvement scheme will the full capital costs be known. Officers are actively engaging with DFC to establish their support in any such project. Whilst DFC are not in a position just yet to confirm capital funding at this very early stage, they've advised further technical detail and costs will be required in order for them to fully assess any request for grant assistance. DFC have indicated their in principle support for the proposed project, subject to the outcome of any design process that we might take forward. So, members, in terms of the recommendation, we're asking you to note the contents of the report and to provide us with authority to allocate the required sum of £30,000 to undertake the initial design work and costings as part of exploring the feasibility of the proposed environmental improvement scheme. Thank you, members.
Members, have any comments? Or Councillor McGinley?
Good Chair, and thank you, Tony, for the report. I think the works that's planned for Fowle Street already, I think we've welcomed them, I don't know how many times at this stage, and we're looking forward to seeing them happening. But I think that the works that are potentially going to happen as a result of this exercise would be really, really welcomed. A discussion that we've had internally is in and around, I know that there's other works going on in the city centre, up in and around Palace Street coming down through the town that are possibly going to coincide. Is it possible that through the scoping exercise that it could be a similar spec, so there's continuity throughout the city centre? So if that can be considered, but we're happy to propose the recommendations in the report, and we think that any improvements on Fowle Street where visitors are coming to the city centre would be very much welcome. Thank you.
Yeah, through you, Chair, members, absolutely. We would see that it would want to continue on the palette that and nature of the public realm and the inner public realm scheme. We also, as officers, see that this has the potential to be the beginning of moving on, indeed the City Deal project that will start there and move back on up along the river, and indeed in effect to try to mirror the quality that's within Edmonton on the other side of the river. So all of those little pieces of the jigsaw then will eventually come together, and we see this as an opportunity for council to contribute. Yes, it's council funding, but to lever in a much larger potential funding to actually deliver on the ground and to wrap around our own City Deal project, etc. So all of the relevant teams have been involved in those discussions in terms of our City Deal teams, our regeneration teams, Northern Ireland Water, DFC, and indeed DFI, etc. Absolutely.
Councillor O'Reilly.
Thanks, Chair, and happy to second the proposal. If Councillor McGinley's proposed it. Chair, just a few questions and comments, I suppose. To Tony, I suppose in relation to the concept, yeah, it's useful. Councillor McGinley, I'd agree with what you said about making sure that we're able to be consistent with other schemes that are taking place in the city centre, so that for people walking around or pushing buggies or in wheelchairs, etc., that they're experiencing the same surface throughout the city centre as best as possible. I suppose, Tony, it raises a question for me. You mentioned you've been in touch with some of the stakeholders in the street, but has there been conversations or will there be conversations with the business communities along the street, and also where possible identification of some of the owners of buildings on the street that are currently derelict, that are in a bad shape, because if we're putting energy into improving the streetscape, we'd want to make sure that buildings are as possible not having weeds, having grass, etc., going out to the top of the buildings. So in doing our best to make sure that if the public bodies are looking after the streetscape, that privately owned businesses and properties are also making sure that their properties are well maintained also. And I suppose the final point for me in relation to it is the likes of the Northwest Regional College recently did a very beautiful piece of street art on their building, which people who were visiting the Foyle Maritime Festival certainly seemed to appreciate, and it added something to our visitor attraction. So in scoping out this, would there be the possibility of identification of public buildings in that area, like the bus centre itself or the Central Library, where we could also repeat some very useful street art that attracts people to visit that part of the city centre? Thanks, Chair.
Okay, Chair, thank you. So on the first point, in terms of engagement with businesses, that will be a very important part of this proposal, and we acknowledge that. We acknowledge, I suppose, the challenges in and around the street being closed off for a year, and our intention and the desired intention is that we can dovetail the delivery of this scheme on the back of the Northern Ireland Water reinstatement works, and that there are a number of intricate conversations happening in terms of how we can find an efficient procurement and delivery route for us to do that. And one of the routes is potentially working through DFI, through its own measure term contractor, to try to expedite that time frame. As the report says, there are a lot of variables at this moment in time in terms of whether or not we even get the capital funding for the project, and indeed just the general procurement issues. Once we have the project worked up in a little bit further detail, we most certainly will be engaging at a very early stage with the businesses along Foyle Street, because we see it as an important part of that dialogue. In relation to the other issue just around the presentation of the buildings, and again, I very much acknowledge your points in relation to maybe some buildings which currently aren't in a great condition, and I think it's just maybe worth reminding members that back in 2013 that Council through the City of Culture Dereliction Improvement Scheme carried out extensive work, particularly along that particular terrace of buildings, and unfortunately just they have not maybe been as maintained as much as maybe one would like to see. But as part of any scheme, I think it would be important that we are engaging with the owners of buildings which may not necessarily be in great condition, to work with us in terms of how they can improve their buildings, because I think the whole essence around this scheme is about improving the visual appearance and presentation of Foyle Street as a key gateway and arrival point into the city. And the point around public art, very much so, we're always keen to look at see how we can add new dimensions to our public realm schemes. And what we've just got to be mindful of is that we are within conservation area, and indeed with proximity to listed buildings as well. But subject to us overcoming those particular issues, then we certainly would be quite happy to look at public art as being another feature at any scheme. And as I say, we're very much at those early and intricate stages at this moment in time in terms of working it forward. And obviously, as we start to develop the scheme in further detail, then we'll report back to yourselves as members and indeed the local business and other stakeholders as well. Thank you.
Attend, Councillor Riley. Yeah, Councillor Tierney.
Sorry, Chair. My question was around the City Deal project and how it ties on up, but Karen has already addressed it, so no need now. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Tierney. Members, that's proposed by Councillor McGinley and seconded by Councillor Riley. Are we content? Yeah. We'll move on now to item 11, water refill stations, and that's Connor.
Thanks, Chair. And this is to advise members with regard to siting of water refill stations in publicly accessible council buildings, and follows on from a previous request from members for officers to look at siting refill stations in publicly accessible open spaces throughout the city and district. As advised previously, the property team in corporate health and safety had looked at that and identified a number of issues, both in terms of cost and I suppose in terms of hygiene and maintenance of any stations located in open public areas. Following on from that, members had then asked that we look at how we could possibly introduce this in terms of council accessible buildings, and the team have looked at that. At present, drinking water dispensers are located within staff areas within most buildings, and on that basis it may be feasible to relocate these to public areas at minimal cost. Where new or additional stations are required, additional units can be leased from the providers at an annual cost of £430 per unit. Per year, plus the installation costs. And the provider will look at servicing, cleaning, disinfecting and carrying out repairs to dispensers on a regular basis. And this will address the issues in terms of hygiene and in particular Legionella management and control. There will be some additional charges in terms of increased water usage associated with this, but again, we can't see that being a significant cost, but it will be greater where there's a greater demand on the service. Members had also requested the council promote the use of filling stations with officers from the environment and marketing engaging with Refill NI to promote their scheme and encourage greater participation in the programme. And any of the facilities that council would introduce into the scheme would be listed on those on their website as well. So officers consider that public refill points could be installed initially at the Guildhall, Alley Theatre, the civic offices both in Derry and Strabane, Templemore Sports Complex, Foley Arena and Riversdale Leisure Centre. And again, we're seeking members' approval to progress with those ones initially and look to extend to other facilities as appropriate.
Thank you, Connor. Councillor Riley.
Yeah, thanks, Chair, for bringing me in, and thanks, Connor, for the comprehensive report. When I introduced this as a and pop-up motion back in the spring, I appreciated officers would need some time to go away and consider it. So I appreciate that they've done that and came back with a proposal that that can introduce these water refill schemes across the council, citywide and district, which I think is important, and also to thank Connor for the paragraph in the report in relation to helping promote the availability of these refill stations if they are approved, so that people will be aware who are using the likes of Refill NI already, to be aware that they now exist in these public buildings. So, Chair, just to thank Connor for the report and happy to propose it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Riley. Councillor Deeney.
Just happy to second, and anything we can do, as Councillor Riley said there, and anything to reduce single-use plastics is brilliant. And just to say as well, that if we can repurpose and relocate, as you have said, they cut costs, that's amazing. So happy to second. Thank you.
Any other members wish to pass comment? No, or content enough, members? And we'll see how the scheme goes, and then we might get one onto the DA somewhere. Right, members, the remaining items on this section here from item 12 to 22 are open for information. So I will just go through them here, members, and you can, if you wish to comment, through. So item 12, bulk control. Right. Item 13, proposed revocation of a disabled parking bay. No. Item 14, DFI proposed speed limits. No. 15 as the flooding update. 16 as the Maboy update from DERA. 10 enough members. 17 is the Realm project engagement. Right. Alderman Hussey and then Councillor McGinley.
Thank you, Chair. And I mean, it's not within RDA, but I welcome the work that has been done there and the consultation that's been going on. And it's a general question that follows on from that. Whoever, whatever department takes forward various elements, and it applies, for example, the Diamond in Castleberg, it will apply Regeneration in Newton Stewart. Upkeep of these projects when they are on the ground, where will the responsibility lie? And I ask that on the basis of recently we had the issue Councillor Jason Barr brought forward and Councillor Raymond Barr about street cleaning. And thankfully, and I do thank those responsible, that has taken place in Castleberg. I'm not sure about the other two locations, but it has taken place. Made a big difference. But an issue that lay there was council had to wait on DFI to spray for weeds. Now that's something council can't do because of council policy on glyphosate, which I find ridiculous actually. You know, that you have DFI who can, and they're doing it on streets that we're going to clean. We can't. And, you know, it impacts on the issues that Councillor Tierney was raising about generally within the city. There are areas overcome with weeds, etc. And I'm just wondering then about taking forward the upkeep and maintenance of these areas when they are completed, all of them, whether they're in the city or anywhere else.
Members, through you, members, you will notice from the reports that we bring forward in terms of these regeneration projects, we will always add in the costs associated with upkeep of the project. So that would include, for example, the forthcoming Strabane Public Realm, as and when that moves forward. Any of these projects that we move forward, we do now consider those, and do, for members' consideration, then do note that at rates estimates time, we will need that added on moving forward, because we have recognised that you know, any additional works that we need to do will have to be costed. The often in a number of these projects, and I can bring Conor in if need be, the physical regeneration and the improvement in the actual infrastructure is often much easier to maintain than what is there at the minute as well. And we do find that, and we expect that for a number of the projects as well. So that, you know, where we can use that within existing resources, we will, but we will always assess the projects and note for members that we will have to have additional resources if need be, and work with our partners accordingly. We do try to take over ownership of schemes where is appropriate. It's not always appropriate. Some of them do have to remain, for example, with DFI, but we will take over ownership if at all possible.
Chair, with your permission, just a brief comment. I welcome that reassurance from Karen, but at the same time, what I'm trying to say is I don't want to see council trying to work with one arm tied behind their back compared to their counterparts in DFI, housing executive, etc. when it comes to keep places tidy and weed free. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Hussey. Councillor McGinley.
Very good, Chair. Just in relation, I just wanted to welcome the report. I attended the consultation event up in the Newgate Arts Centre, along with a few party colleagues, and the plans are class. And I think that if that work goes ahead and we get the capital funding secured for it, that it has a massive potential to improve that link in between from the bog right up through and the fountain and the city centre, along with the other schemes. So I just wanted to welcome the plan. I think it's really, really ambitious and really, really positive. So thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Tierney.
Yep, Chair, I just want to welcome the plan as well. I am aware of some of the ideas on there, and if they do come off, they will actually they'll be fantastic. So it is something that I look forward to seeing. I do note that Councillor Hussey, or Alderman Hussey, has made some remarks around what I may have said. I did not say that generally streets in Derry have weeds growing out of them, because I think that's a very generalised statement, and it's not something that I actually said. And in terms of the glyphosate issue, you know, whilst Alderman Hussey is saying the council, he doesn't want council working with one hand tied behind their back, maybe those other departments should be looking at what the council's doing, and not us looking the other way. A council policy is a council policy, and whether that's makes it that but more difficult than I understand that it does, it is what it is. But the 2 points generally is the plans look fantastic. As someone who grew up in the bog, if that is able to come off, it generally will be fantastic for that particular area. And the other point is that I did not make a general statement saying that weeds are generally growing on the streets in Derry. Thank you.
Thank you, members. Moving on, members. Number 18, have we anyone else to come into the Bantown Centre vacancies? No, content enough, members. Number 19 is the EU Scalable Cities Action Grant. Content, members. Moving on, just in regards to the 3 items, 20, 21, 22, it was just, I suppose it was a clash, because myself and Alderman Hussey and Councillor McHugh were in Castlereagh walking around the public realm scheme when the meeting was on with the elected representatives, and whenever the 3 items are regarding play parks, all within the Derg DEA, and 3 of the Derg councillors were otherwise engaged, it was just a little bit awkward there, but that's just a point. But moving on to item 20, and Councillor Anton, sorry.
Hi, Hurley. Thanks very much, Chair, for letting me in. I know I don't sit in this committee, but I just want to say that we welcome this report, and I have to congratulate the officers for the whole thing. The proposed play parks are on rail. We can see them all there. The equipment is on rail, and I know there's a huge cost involved at the minute, but and just to mention cost and finances, there's no funding as yet for the proposed parks. Is there any update on that at all? Is there, because I know you have everything ready if there's a funding package available, but is there any update at all on that?
Through you, Chair, members, not at the minute, there isn't, and we continually look for opportunities that come up through either central government or other sources of funding, as we have done in the past, to try and get these projects funded. But I think in the first instance, it's important for us to progress with design development and all of the engagement and everything, so that they're ready to go should funding become available, or indeed should members decide to make that funding available through our rates estimates process again, which members can consider as we move forward.
I appreciate that the will to deliver is there. It's just the funding's lacking. But could I just ask another question about the Ballyfatton all-weather pitch? Is there any update on that? Because that park has been closed now, and I know it's the summer holidays, and some of the community groups would really love the place to be open so they can take the youngsters that are off school now and they play football. But there doesn't seem to be any headway yet. And if you don't mind, is there any update on that?
Through members, there isn't a solution yet for that particular facility. It's something that members will know. We've brought a number of reports in relation to over the last number of years. We've looked at various options for that. It's a very constrained site, even more constrained now than it was when we first started to look at it in terms of additional developments in the vicinity, etc. What we have done is we've arranged for our head of capital development to go out and visit. He was actually supposed to visit the end of last week, but wasn't able to do it. Something urgent came up, and he will visit over the next week or so to look at any opportunities for us to actually do something in the interim in order to enable it to get reopened. And we'll keep members updated as soon as we can. But certainly it is a challenging site. I know that we've done quite a lot of engagement with the local residents to try and find out particularly what they want to see as the future for that site. But it is a constrained site, and it's not readily lends itself, for example, to like a proper pitch, for example, given its nature and, you know, what the standard would need to be, etc. So we will continue to work on it, and we will come back to members with an update in terms of any potential interim solution.
Councillor or Alderman Hussey, sorry.
Thank you, Chair. You'll not be surprised with what I have to say on the whole officers. But firstly, can I thank officers for bringing there are actually 3 proposals there forward, and the point has been made. You know, will the funding be there to bring these forward? I suppose I have to ask the question. Thank our council officers for the work that has been done at Kiln, but when's it going to open?
Through you, Chair, I was in contact with Property Services today. A contractor has been appointed who is fabricating the fencing, and all being well, he hopes to be on site by the end of this month.
I think Alderman Hussey might have the thoughts that's well through the summer holidays, but I may be putting words into your mouth there. Alderman Middleton.
Thank you, Chair. No issues with the report in front of us, but I would love to know if Cumbercloddy Play Park is opening. I do know that the residents are becoming really disenfranchised with the way we've been trying to give updates as they've been coming forward. It's now the middle of July. The children have nowhere to play, and I think the parents and children in the community are starting to think it won't be this summer at all. So any update would be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Through you, Chair, the works on site are substantially complete. There's a few ROSPA health and safety checks that need to be undertaken. And the latest update that I have is that some of the walls that, the old walls that are around it, okay, do need work, okay? So this is almost like an add-on to the programme. And we felt it was prudent to keep the park closed until such time as we did those, as opposed to open it up and then close it. My understanding is that the stonemason, okay, is going to start work on the 22nd of July. That's what I'm told. Okay, and his work will take him between 5 and 6 weeks. So that'll bring us in towards the end of the summer. That's probably towards the end of August.
Thank you very much. And this is not a personal comment, but that is so disappointing. That's really, really disappointing. Thank you.
Councillor Duffy.
Thank you, Chair. Just on the same item, again, getting a lot of phone calls out of Cloddy on this. I was on Radio Foyle the other day speaking on it, about it, after getting the information from council officers. If there's any possibility at all that we know the listed wall and the stonemason has to do that specific specialised work on that. But if there's a way to get, and I know we're also waiting on these railings that had to be fabricated, because it is not, you just don't buy them off the shelf, obviously. And because of the ROSPA inspection, it's a part of it and it needs to be done. But if we can meet the ROSPA recommendations by the railings, and then if it is a possibility to then fence off the wall that needs done, so then that can continue in the background and we can open the play park sooner. We should be considering it, because at the moment with children missing out on their play park in the summer, and it's not good. Thank you.
Through you, members, we're happy to take those comments on board and go away and consider possible options. You know, certainly we're disappointed and we would have liked to have had it open by now. Obviously we can't control some of these health and safety inspections, etc., and implications, but we will look at to see whether or not there is any interim solutions, and we'll come back to members as quickly as we can on that.
Content, members? I'm assuming then members were content enough. That's kind of item 20, item 21 and 22 together, or sorry, Councillor McHugh.
Yeah, no, just on item 22, Chair, the Hillview play design, just want to welcome getting to this stage of the process. If anything, it demonstrates how long it can take for these things to materialise, because I think it was 2017 when I first organised a meeting with council officers and Georgetown Community Association to discuss the land transfer at that time from housing executive into council's hands, and then to tease out exactly what Georgetown Community Group envisaged for that site. So thankfully we've got to this point, and as I say, I welcome the designs and I welcome the fact that the community will be consulted on them as well in August, according to the report. I know there's no finance in place at present, but I suppose that's up to us as elected representatives and whatever to work to ensure that the financial resources can be sourced and put in place. And you know, if this is delivered, and I'm sure it will be, it also represents another step, you know, in delivering our council play plan as well. So it's to be welcome. So thank you.
Councillor McKee, Alderman Hussey.
Sure, endorse Councillor McKee's remarks there. But something else that has arisen in council, there was a proposal reference toilets and the community toilet scheme, and included within that there was a reference to the upgrade of areas like Vaughan's Home and Castle Park, as to why, you know, what's happening with regard to toilet provision, and that which lies within the criteria of moving from a local to a neighbourhood district type park. I know the Business and Culture have brought forward the issues with regard to community toilet signage. It was in the same proposal, but there's nothing yet coming forward within ENR with regard to what we are told is ENR's responsibility element within provision of toilets. And I suppose, can I ask, can that be brought to the next meeting of ENR as to what can be done with regard to the requirement within criteria that there would be toilet provision at those particular sites? Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, members, we're happy to bring a report forward. Obviously, any provision will have to come along with resources in terms of delivery and in maintenance. So that would obviously come back to members for consideration in terms of making those resources available in order to take forward. But certainly we can discuss with you the requirements under the criteria, etc., and what that would apply to, and bring a further report on that.
Through you, Chair, appreciate that, and look forward to that engagement, and indeed something positive perhaps coming forward to councillors. You know yourself, Chair, and indeed Karen does as well, that this issue has been sitting there for quite a long time. Thank you, Chair.
Alderman Hussey, are we content, members? Members, can I have a proposal to go into confidential? Councillor McGinley, second of Councillor Norris.